Well, good evening to you and welcome to this program of Walter Rodney Groundings on this day, 7th day of May in the year 2017. It's good to be here with you once again. With me on the program this evening are Brother Tacuma Ogunseye and Brother Desmond Trotman. As usual, we'll be talking about current issues in the political landscape of Guyana. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you, Deon.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I think we have to begin this program on a sad note. The passing of the wife of Brother U.C. Kwayana, Sister Tchaiko Kwayana in the United States. Brother Ogun and Brother Desmond, you would have been close to Tchaiko and to U.C. I don't know what your messages are to the relatives and to the people who will have known Sister Tchaiko and Brother U.C., who is obviously going to be grieving the passing of his wife.
I want to extend my personal condolences and the condolences of WPA and all the WPA family to Brother Kwayana and his children on this real sad occasion, the passing of Sister Tchaiko. I have known Sister Tchaiko since in the 70s when she came to Guyana. At that time, we had the at ASCRE headquarters in Alberton. We had the Pan African Secretariat was there, and the Pan African Secretariat used to encourage people from all parts of the African diaspora to come to Guyana to participate in the economic and the political process that was going on. And I knew Sister Kwayana from that early period. I remember when there was a nationalization of sugar in bauxite by the Burnham regime. Sister Kwayana, myself, a number of Ascrians, we were very active in Georgetown, trying to explain, going house to house, street to street, explain to people, why nationalization was important, and trying to build up a kind of patriotic support for the action. And Sister Tchaiko, just like Brother Kwayana, have been active in all the important struggles of the African community and the wider Guyanese community in Guyana during her stay in Guyana. It is a real great loss to Brother Kwayana, and I want him to know that we all, our love and our thoughts are with him and the children. We only could ask him to be strong. This is definitely for me personally a sad moment. I only learned of her passing by Brother Trotman when we were coming here and he picked me up to give me a drop. I guess when I go home I will probably go on the computer and see it officially. But for the purpose of the program, which we know is being looked outside Guyana, throughout the world, because you do post it on YouTube. So the whole Guyanese diaspora will have a chance to view the program. So it's indeed a sad moment, and again, our love and concern and sympathies with Brother Kwayana and his family.
Brother Trotman.
Yeah, yes, John, I want to add to what Hogan has said because I identify with his remarks. My knowledge of Sister Kwayana is more recent. In that I really came to know her in the period of the 70s and 80s and onwards. And my knowledge of her really had to do with her intense contributions that women, the WPA women and other women were making in the struggle against the Burnham regime at that particular point in time. I remember her being part of a group called Women Against Terror, which did tremendous work in terms of sensitizing women, particularly about the ills of the Burnham regime. And she really played a valiant part in that period of struggling there. I can also recall her humanity in relation to her treatment of people, because she was a person who could have been approached by any and everybody with their problems, and she spared no effort in terms of lending assistance, giving advice. And so that her loss really is tremendous. Like Tacuma, I'm saddened by the fact that she has passed. I only learned about it about half an hour before arriving here, because I happened to be sitting down and went on my email and saw a note from Sister Andai, who apparently as soon as she had learned about it, she sent messages out to persons. And so that my first awareness of Sister Tchaiko's passing was just about half an hour before arriving here at the studio. And I shared that information with Tacuma. In the WPA, we will have recognized her as a stalwart, and we know that her passing is a tremendous loss. Even though she hasn't been here, caught up in the struggle in recent times, physically, but her thoughts were always with us. And so that we've lost a champion of freedoms. She has been, her work really has been tremendous, and her passing is irreplaceable.
What about her contribution to the awareness, African awareness of themselves, through Askria culture and so on? I've been traveling the country during the time President Granger was doing his Emancipation magazines. We used to go from village to village chronicling the history. And it's surprising that you go all the way up the Quarantine, Kildonian and all those places, and they tell us that Tchaiko and UC and Askria used to go there and teach them about African culture and African food and all these things. So, Tchaiko would have been an integral part of all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're quite correct. She was very active in all areas of Askria work in the villages, and she played a very important role also in promoting. She was a teacher by profession, and she really also played an important role in encouraging, people, to take education seriously. She also used to play a role teaching Swahili. She was Swahili. In fact, it is she who actually gave me my name.
Okay.
So she the Kwayanas generally, and herself, and she in particular, they played a role in promoting African naming ceremonies, for promoting African weddings.
Okay.
And she had of course, because they live in Buxton, I think you will be able to see quite a lot of what she did. They did in Buxton generally,
But the county high school put up candidates to write Swahili. And of course, among the people who passed would have been GC Swahili. Jem Grant would have been, Marcus would have been one of our students who wrote Swahili and passed it at the GC exams, and so on. So, Buxton and the county high school, would have been, county would have been integral to the life of African culture in Buxton, because it was a school during the day and so on, but at evenings and at weekends, the drums and the life of the African man came alive at the county high school. And one of the things that was always striking about Sister Tchaiko was that she promoted not only the African lifestyle in terms of how she ate and so on, but also her dress. All right, she was always decked in African garb, and anyone who came into contact with her was struck by her simplicity, her modesty, and her love for humanity. I mean, she was, as you said, she was a people person. And Kwayana's house, the amazing thing is that you go at any time, people would be there at midnight. After midnight, you go and you call. It's never a bother to them. You know, for them, work was
Ongoing.
ongoing.
24 hours.
24 hours, right? And that was striking. But life in Buxton was really impacted by the presence of UC and the presence of Tchaiko. And we really have to really count it as a great loss to not only Buxton but to Guyana as a whole. Because she was larger than Buxton where she lived. As you said, she was part of the struggle. And she was also, when they saw it necessary, part of the efforts to support the administration, the Burnham administration. That was one of the things about both UC and Tchaiko. If they saw something positive in a kind of action, they never, because of their political beliefs, you know, held it against or withheld their support for it. If they saw it as a positive action, they would go out to support it. If they saw it as a negative action, then they would, of course, voice their concerns about it. And I think that is part of the culture that we've inherited. And that is why today you find that even though we are part of the coalition, if we see them going wrong, then we are not going to just sit and allow things to go as it is. We are free to criticize because that is a culture that we have developed. So I would like to express my condolences on behalf of the people of Buxton. I mean, when she went into hospital, Kofi told me that she was there. We have to give our support to Brother UC at 94. I mean, basically, he is an aged man, and to lose his support, then we hope that he's strong enough to be able to bear that kind of loss, right? But we will have to send our condolences to them. When I get home on Facebook, I'll speak with Kofi and Bako and the others to let them know that we are sharing their sorrow. I know that during the illness that efforts were being made to raise funds to help with our treatment and so on. Of course, some books were sent down. The most recent book by David Hines, Interview with Brother UC, I got one of those. It's only $4,000. But those who are interested in buying the book, I'll have to get Sister Ndaye to give me a specific location and where they can get it and that kind of thing. But it's the most recent publication on the thoughts of Brother UC in relation to village politics and all of that, based upon an interview with Brother David Hines. All right?
If I remember, Deon, in relation to the books, Sister Ndaye did say about 2 weeks or so ago that if it is that persons are interested, they can order through you.
Okay.
And we can make the arrangements to collect them and get them to you so that you could hand them over.
That's not a problem.
So that persons who are interested in the book can just contact Deon, and Deon will ensure that they're gotten.
Yeah, my number is 662-7529. You can call me up if you're interested in the book, and then I can always get the copies either through Brother Blair or Sister Ndaye, and you may be able to collect those. All right? But we'll keep you posted on the developments in relation to the funeral. Of course, I just got a call from a stalwart of Buxton asking about what arrangements we'll be making in terms of a commemorative ceremony and so on. So once we have that organized, we're going to let people know so that they can come and be a part of that event in remembrance of Sister Tchaiko Kwayana. All right? Okay, we have other issues that we want to talk about. The elections of the Public Service Union. I don't know if, well, an announcement was made, a winner was announced, but there seems to be some controversy in relation to the results. The initial counts that we saw suggested that the incumbent was way behind in the major areas where the union operated, in Georgetown and so on. But the final declaration has seen the same old as would have been there for 30 years. What are your thoughts on those elections, gentlemen?
Well, Deon, maybe I should go first on this. What I do know is that there's been, as you said, the results are controversial. The opposing team, the team led by Team Gaspar, I understand they're contemplating taking the matter to court because they felt that the way in which it is that the results have been notified to the general public and to them leaves a lot to be desired. They're saying that there are some serious questions about the whereabouts of statements of polls. They have asked for copies of those statements of polls and can't, and up to now, as I understand it, they haven't been given to them. And so that we seem to have a situation here in which it is that the final results will be contested in the courts. It's a little disturbing that an election that saw about 8,000 persons, if so many persons, casting their votes, took as long as it did for the results to be made known. And that the situation here is that even after the results are made known, there's widespread dissatisfaction about the outcome of the elections. And I will hope that very quickly that there will be, if the matter goes to court, that the court will understand the importance of dealing with the matter swiftly, and so that there could be some resolution to the problem. But as far as I know at this particular juncture, there's widespread dissatisfaction in the results.
Brother Tacuma, yeah.
Okay, my information concur with Brother Trotman. As I said last week, it's a very tragic and sad day for the trade union movement in the country as a whole, and particularly for the public service unions. One, because we're political people, we don't always want to appear to be interfering into workers' issues. But I do believe that the whole manner in which those elections were conducted, opened the door for legitimate claims of electoral fraud. And my sympathies are with the opposing side in this matter. Regardless of what I may think about Patrick Yard, I believe that internal democracy of a union must allow any set of members of that union to contest for the highest office in the union.
And be fairly treated.
Yes, that's what I'm coming to know.
And be fairly treated.
Yeah. And once that contest is announced, then everything must be put in place and be done to make sure that the process is fair and transparent. In this particular elections, this is far from being transparent. I remember the opposing team was asking for a list of eligible persons to vote. They didn't get it.
Okay.
And I don't think there's more than 4,000 plus public servants
As members
at the union, and the length of time it takes to tally, and I'm almost certain 100% of them in vote. Therefore, you're actually counting less than that. And there's no way to justify the length of time it took, okay, those in charge of the elections to announce an outcome. And it opened the door for people to believe that the length of time was necessary in order for people to tamper with the process. I mean, it's really opened the door to that kind of conclusion. And unless, the Patrick Yard team could provide really convincing
No, but
information.
It is up to the team to provide that information?
Well,
or they...
It's maybe the election commission, but I don't know that the election commission that they put there is not a Patrick Yard commission. But I think that the Patrick Yard, for their own integrity, for their own integrity, having been announced the winners, they should insist for the process be open. They should even call for independent, people to go through all the
Auditing of the
elections.
Process, yeah.
I mean, if I won the elections and I believe win it fair and square, that's what I will do.
Okay.
Call for independent audit, let everything be opened up so that I come out with it with some amount of integrity. As it stands, Patrick Yard and Company is not coming out with any integrity.
But
I believe, Deon, that
Okay.
one of the mistakes that was made is in the appointment of the elections officer. Now, I know the elections officer. I know him very well, Mr. Horman D'Souza. But the fact of the matter is that I thought that he was put in an extremely negative position when he was appointed the elections officer. Horman D'Souza was once a member of the GAPSU executive on the Patrick Yard. And it is unfair to the other side for you to have somebody who was once a member. Well, they could have asked the Elections Commission. They could have asked the Elections Commission to identify a person's returning officer.
Normally that is what the GTU does.
They could have asked a member of the election, they could have asked the Elections Commission to identify a person's returning officer. And I'm quite sure that persons will have started out feeling a little more comfortable with the process. But for you to have somebody in the thing, I'm not saying that he went into this thing with a commitment to the Patrick Yard side, but it is hard to believe that the process was as fair as it is. The fact of the matter is that persons are saying that when it is that they requested from him information in respect to the voting, that he walked away without giving them an explanation. Now that really doesn't augur well for acceptance of the final results. And so in that kind of situation, maybe the people are right who want to, if it is that they intend to challenge it by legal means, the legality of the results, they should.
But one of the concerns I have is that Patrick seemed to have known that he won the elections even before the results were announced.
Well,
If from what was gathered at his deliverance at the May Day parade and so on, that
I understand he didn't make a...
he had some speech that he gave where he
That is away from the... he was asked for a comment, I think, away from the thing. He wasn't... I don't think that he was present at the May Day parade.
Okay.
I think that there was an occasion in which it is that he was asked to make a comment.
A comment. I read something to that effect, and he made a comment.
It wasn't at the May Day parade, as far as I understand.
Right? That suggests that he would have been still the president. Now, how does that figure in light of the fact that the announcement wasn't made that they were still deliberating?
Well, any candidate in the elections process could claim victory.
Okay.
And it is also true that Mr. Gaspar had prior to the announcement made by Patrick Yard, had actually declared himself the winner. And he was doing so based on the returns that were coming in. And he felt confident that in the final analysis he would be winner. Patrick Yard subsequently made a claim that he was the winner. And so that you had that situation. I don't see it as an unusual type of situation.
Okay.
It's something that I will expect to take place. But what is important is the way in which the final results were made available. And I'm saying that if it is
How were they made available?
they were made available unknown to the opposing team. They were made available unknown to the opposing team. And so that if that was what happened, the opposing team is within their rights to say and to actually move to challenge the final outcome. They can do that.
Okay. Because, I mean, if there are two parties in an elections, the announcement normally is that both parties are invited for a formal announcement of the results, but you can't declare a winner in the absence of one group.
And the Gaspar team is saying that is what has happened. And if they're sure that is what has happened, go to the courts.
But the opposing team should have representatives throughout the count.
Yeah.
So they don't have to wait for the official announcement from the counting process. They should know whether they win or they lose.
But you know, they would have been having a lot of problems getting.
But they were being prevented to participate
in the count.
In the count, and that is, you know, I mean.
Police were called in several times to
ridiculous.
To get them removed from the building at Regent.
That's ridiculous.
So, well, I am hoping that, you know, the challenge will be made and that the court will see the need for urgency in making a decision in relation to those elections, because from the things that you have been saying, there seems to be grounds for concern. And once they can put together a strong team to uphold their challenge, then I think maybe the elections can be declared null and void. And some process that is seemingly more fair and transparent can be brought to bear, so that at the end of it, we don't have this whole question of doubt as to who the winner really is. All right. Well, that's what I think. One of the things that we have to continue to battle with.
You know, Deon, the way in which these election results were made known, I recall many years ago when there was another battle at the Public Service Union. It was, I believe, it was in the era of Norman Semple.
Okay.
And I think that the challenger was a person by the name of Brenda Doe Harris. And I recall that when the count stopped on the first night after the votes were cast, Brenda Doe Harris looked like the likely winner. she was miles ahead of the incumbent Norman Semple. And by some magical, next day when the results were displayed, by some magical act, the whole thing was reversed. And this really reminds me of that, because Gaspar looked the likely winner when the count had stopped. And you wonder what took place.
Transformation. Mathematical transformation.
And if my recollection is correct, Yadu won by over 800 votes, which I find very strange. What was by our strategy, might looking to be a very close elections, suddenly the incumbent ran away with like 800 and something votes.
I think miracles do happen, and in this situation, something happened to upset I will venture to say upset the will of the people, and so that persons who are dissatisfied, I believe you really should challenge, because look, listen, there's a danger here if this kind of situation is allowed to happen. I mean, we've been lamenting the fact that one of the problems that the trade union movement is faced with is the fact that over time, trade union members seem not to be interested in what is happening, and they're not taking the kind of action to advance their interest. And it has to do with the fact that there's a loss of confidence in those old long-term leaders, and some of those leaders must tell themselves that they should step aside and allow younger faces to emerge, allow younger leaders to emerge. They could be acting in an advisory position, but I think that if it is that you look at the source that
Okay.
exists.
But I was just going to ask you, what is it that is motivating them?
Yeah,
to,
I think
to
that if
want
it is
to-
that you look at the source that is available, that it lends itself to the feeling that people want to hold on to these positions, not for what they can do to advance the interests of members of the union, but for what they can gain in terms of source. And I'm concerned about the development, and I think it's unless there are challenges to to some of these things that are taking place within trade unions, that the movement is going to deteriorate simply because membership will feel so dissatisfied with what is happening that they're not going to be participating in the struggle for bread and justice.
But do you think there can be more dissatisfaction than there is now?
There could be, particularly if it is that people believe that in voting in a process, that process is not fair and transparent and doesn't allow for the will of the people to be exercised. If that doesn't happen, people are going to, just step backwards. Who will want to be part of a process that doesn't allow for fairness? And so that the need for these challenges, become greater.
Well, let's hope that the guys, Gaspar and his team, that they do take it where it ought to be, so that at the end of the day, some kind of decision that they can be comfortable with is made in relation to the elections, and that too will do good for the membership, all right, in terms of having the issues all cleared up and relieving this stress that people may feel, because those who might have voted for Gaspar are going to be disillusioned, and they may even want to fall out of the union and say that it's really making no sense, because that's generally what people come to in situations like these. Well, it didn't really make sense that we're wasting our time, and they just ease out.
You see, it's only a fair examination of the system is going to tell you who voted for Gaspar and who voted for Yard. Only a fair examination of the system. And for as long as you don't have that fair examination of the system, there's going to be real doubts about the final outcome. And I'm telling you, if it is that people, members of the union, who over time have had problems in their work situations and have found that those problems have not been addressed by the leaders, and the same leadership have been returned to power, ask yourself what is going to happen. So that there has to be a fair examination of the process. Only the court could make a determination of that. And that becomes very important. Let there be a fair examination of the process. Let people know who voted for Yard and who voted for Gaspar. And let the decision of the court be the final arbiter in the matter. That's the only way which you can do.
Well, as I'm saying, I hope that they go down that road, because sometimes people make pronouncements about taking certain actions and then they allow it to just slip past. But I would urge that such action be taken so that at the end of the day, all of the doubts and the issues are cleared up and people's minds are set at ease in relation to the elections. minority leader has put together a list of names for the chairmanship of GCOM. What are your thoughts on the submission, the recent submission by Jack View?
I looked at the list, and a lot of people on the list, by just reflex action, I could associate with the PPP. So I would, just from looking at the list, I got a sense that at least 4 of the 6 is PPP people. So the list, it's a kind of continuation of the earlier approach to put a whole lot of PPP people in front of the president, with the hope that regardless of how you twist and you turn, you will end up with a PPP sympathetic nominee.
But then they would argue that, because they want to make the president appear as though he is not following due process and all of these things. When you put up names that are obviously going to ring a bell in the minds of the populace, then how is the president to treat with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult situation. As I said very early when we discussed this on earlier program, I think the Jagdeo is deliberately setting what he considers a trap for the president. He wants the president to either accept the PP nominee or to continue to reject the process. So it strengthens the case that the government is preparing to rig the upcoming elections. I think that is the trap, political trap, he sets for the government and the president. Whether we like it or not, the format in which we had agreed, to bring out the chairman of the election commission, opened itself for that kind of manipulation. And I really don't know how we can get out of this. I mean, this is it's a difficult political situation. Yeah, the president and the country find itself in.
Okay.
Previously, when we used the formula, to me they were in the opposition more patriotism, more national concern, rather than narrow partisan interests. But I think this thing is driven by extreme partisan interests and Jagdeo personal ambitions. So it leaves on their side little room on the PPP side for flexibility and to handling this matter, the way it ought to be handled. For them, they start by seeing this thing here, we either get we own way, or we create a nasty, messy political situation that we could accuse the government of preparing the ground for rigging the elections. And the fact that if this thing drags on extraordinarily long, and the president has to exercise a unilateral action on it, it would not be good for the country, and we're playing exactly into the hands of the PPP. So I really don't know how we can get out of it, but I could see it as a very unfortunate political situation developing. And it's all because Jagdeo is treating this thing that, look, what is at stake here is me, man, me interest. I want to become president again. And even, I don't care about country. And if I got to carry the country through one of the worst electoral experiences, so be it.
Yeah, so we had Rudy Collins, we had the former chairman, Steve Surridge Bally, and as far as you were saying, those gentlemen could not have been so identified with any political party in the deep sense as some of these names that are submitted here. And the president is asked to make a choice of these names. When Jagdeo was asked to change the constitution by the British administration and so on, in relation to the election process, you know what he said? he was not going to legislate himself out of office. You remember that?
Yeah.
No. What was his rationale for saying that? And how does that fit in with the current situation where the choice has to be made by the president of a commissioner who we really may not have the confidence in to deliver an election that is free and fair, as against Jack Dio deciding that he's not going to change laws that would see him losing power while he was there. Trotty, you want to?
But look, my position, let me tell you what's my position in relation to because I think that Ogun has raised an important point as to what Jadu intends to say if it is that the president does not choose one of his candidates for the position of chairman of the Elections Commission. He could very well say that the president is laying the foundation for rigging. But even if it is that the president chooses one of his candidates and the results of the 2020 elections go against Jagyo and the PPP, as I know that it will, he will still make the accusation that rigging took place. So, for me, the president has to pursue the process. And the process doesn't stop with the candidates submitted by the opposition. It goes beyond that. And if at some point in time the president is not satisfied with the list of names that are supplied, the president can also identify somebody who he feels is a fit and proper person to conduct the election. But I know what Ogun is saying, that every president goes in that direction. He's laying the foundation for the accusation by Jagyo. But I believe that Jagyo will make the accusation anyhow.
Okay.
Simply because in the final analysis, once it is that the final results are against his expectations, that he will say, as they did in the 2015 elections, that the thing was rigged. So the president has to, in my view, he has to exhaust the process. He has to exhaust the process. And he's duty bound he's obliged by the Constitution to do just that. Let us wait and see what's going to happen. Like Tacuma, I don't believe that the persons identified on the list are persons that I will have confidence in to act in a partisan fashion, in a non-partisan fashion, if it is that they're elected as they identified as the chairman of the election. I don't believe that none of them will be able to act in a non-partisan fashion. I believe that they will bring their own political commitment to the decision-making process, and that you will have a situation where it is that the Elections Commission will be weighted one way or the other, in favor of a party. I understand all of that. And I don't believe that situation could be avoided. The formula that exists, that is currently in place, allows for that situation to take place. And I don't know if it is that the president can avoid making a decision that will see who he believes is in the position of chairman of the commission, somebody that he thinks will act in a non-partisan way.
Let me just explain something. I doesn't really concern too much what Jagdeo say after he get defeated in the elections. To me, that's neither here nor there. I'm concerned what he say before we go to the elections.
Okay.
You see, we have to. This is a very sensitive political matter. Now, if you watch the coalition, we don't have a clear majority of voters out there. We could win, or let me say, the African votes. We have to get American votes. We have to get mixed people votes. Okay, and what the PP is doing is trying to rake up in the consciousness, not in the African community, because PP approach that they don't lose the African votes.
Okay.
Okay, the fight is for the Amerindian votes and the mixed people, and those the mixed people, they could vote anyway. You see, and I think what he's trying to do is to create a wide alienation in those constituencies against the president and the government by accusing them of preparing the grounds for rigging. And we can't ignore that. You can't ignore that. You can't ignore it. And while I understand what the Constitution says, this is politics. And I will argue, without trying to preempt what the president will do, I will argue that not at all times you have to stick to constitutionality. You may have to look for a solution that involve some non-constitutional engagements. I just thinking out of the hat. You may very well have to say, look, we can't. This is my choice as president. If I go down this road, this is likely to happen. If I go down the road, now, okay, let me get wider involvement in the society and the region to find a kind of compromise. Because you see, this is a multi-ethnic society, and we gotta be careful. We don't know. We have no certainty. We have no certainty in this equation how the major ethnic groups will respond to an election that is perceived as being rigged. We have no certainty, and we have a duty, okay, as people who are in the position of trying to nurture the nation. And we also have to bear in mind we got border dispute, and we have to make sure in all of this that we don't so divide the country that we create situations for other people to exploit. So I think that since elections are so critical, it is very unpatriotic for Jagdeo to put the country in this position that he's putting it politically. And I think that the president and the APMU have to find some creative way to untangle themselves from this entrapment. And we shouldn't just try to be just simply constitutional. You could be constitutionally right, but politically you could create a disaster.
But you could attempt to be politically correct and have your political actions challenge the code, because there's been instances in this country where people have taken political decisions in order to advance a process, and people go to court and they challenge them to say that those actions were unconstitutional. And so for me, faced with that situation, you will have to allow the constitutional process to take. I believe like you do, that Jagdeo is doing everything that he can in order to mobilize, to further divide the country and to mobilize people under his banner. I believe so. I believe that where the system is not working, is that the government is not doing anything to counter Jagdeo's push. And I think that until the government recognizes that it has to be as proactive as Jagdeo is, that this situation is going to seem to be going in Jagdeo's favor. And the government has to be proactive. The government is faced with a constitutional crisis insofar as the elections of the election, the identification of the chairman of the Elections Commission is concerned. The government can only take a constitutional position in the resolution to the matter. Because the same people, we found it happening with the voter ID cards following the 1992 elections, where we sat down and we came up with something which says that you must have a voter identification card in order to be eligible to vote. All the parties did that, and there was a challenge to it, and it's found to be unconstitutional. So that we cannot sacrifice the constitutionality of an action in favor of a political one, when it is that political decision could be challenged in the court as for being unconstitutional.
No, but it could be challenged. For instance, if you go down that road, the political renovation that we did for '92 led to a change of government.
Oh.
It led to, and even though it was challenging, when you weigh the balance in terms of the country, you have to make constitutions are there to help the country to run smoothly, correctly, and to create unity and cohesion. But if a constitutional provisions is putting so much pressure on the process that's being counterproductive, then you may very well have to renovate it. Okay? And if you can, and in the process of renovating, because of the elections, it's not something that could be done unilaterally by one side in the government. Even if the government may have the power to renovate it, they can't do it. And given our history, we have to, on elections, if on nothing else, on elections, we have to have a common position. Or else this country may not hold together. Okay? This country may not hold together. And the consequences of not holding together, can be justified by constitutional correctness. I will argue.
But we in trying to find this resolution have to be sure, according to your arguments, that we can satisfy both sides. And if it is that you're leaning towards putting in place an elections commission that will meet these expectations of judge, you're not satisfying both sides.
But this is why I'm not arguing that.
No,
Okay.
I'm not arguing. No, but when you put it to make an argument, I'm saying no. I'm not saying that we must accept Jack Deo's list. I am saying we must deal with the entrapment. And if we come to the point, you see what Jack Deo wants is the president to unilaterally use the constitutional powers he have to elect a person, which he could do constitutionally. And I'm saying politically, you are falling exactly into the trap that Jack Deo set. And I'm saying you need some political creativity. We have enough people in this country who could, to sit down and to find an acceptable way out of that political entanglement.
But Jack Deo is claiming that, he did wide consultations and
I don't concern with Jack Deo's consultations.
Are not interested and so on. He had difficulty getting people to come on board.
Jack Deo's story. I concern with we story. You see, we in power now. Okay? And we have to be judged internationally, regionally, and locally. Okay? And this thing is bigger than the parties. The country is bigger than the parties. And we have a duty as political people in power to do everything in your power to make sure, given Guyana electoral history, that we go down an electoral path that could stand scrutiny.
Okay. All right. So then you are not.
But OG, I believe that in spite of the reservations that you have, if the president acts in relation to his constitutional obligations, that his action will withstand scrutiny. That's what I believe.
To who?
Half
of the country will reject it.
That is what I believe.
Yeah, but if half of your country reject it, where do you stand? I'm telling you, even in the region, we're going to run into problems with it. Given Guyanese's history on electoral matters.
I see no resolution in sight for this matter unless the president takes the constitutional action.
I'm telling you, if this matter drag on close, the people believe they could win the elections. If this matter drag on close, the people can make a judgment. Do we allow this thing to lead to the elections or don't lead to elections? The pressure going to be on them later down the road if they believe they could win. You see? So I'm saying that the dynamics will change as the thing get closer and closer to the elections. The pressure on all parties will be greater. And in that situation, we create all kinds of political possibilities.
We could just
but
wait
even
and
in
see.
light
This
of
matter
that,
we got to wait and see.
Yeah, because
this matter we got to wait and see.
the president just can't, in light of expediency, pick a person that is obviously of questionable nature in terms of neutrality. So I see nothing wrong if it comes to that with the president making a decision and appointing someone who is certainly more seemingly neutral in respect to being chairman of the Elections Commission. right? But let's see how the process goes, and let's hope that something breaks and that your concerns, Brother Ogun, will somehow be dealt with. Um, we've had the May Day rally, the Labor Day event. In closing, we don't have a lot of time left. What are your brief thoughts on workers' participation, the messages delivered, and the way forward for trade unionism in Guyana?
Yeah, briefly, I mean, we don't have much time, but I want to, salute the workers for having apparently a successful meeting. Of course, it was poorly attended in terms of numbers, but the fact that they had a united activity, which I think, again, they had it last year, and the president was very instrumental in creating that environment. I think that we have to probably, at the next program, spend a little more time on examining the rally, and the various positions that came out of the rally. But I think that it was good that workers came out, and I hope that next year will be a more larger rally, because every year the thing is shrinking.
Okay, Brother Trotman.
Yeah, I had hoped, Deon, and in fact, I must say that I was excited by the fact that there was one particular speaker on the platforms who I really thought did a very good job, because apart from her, she was, I think, a representative from the Guyana Teachers Union, and she is not the General Secretary. And she is not the person who's the General Secretary of the GTU, and President of the Trade Union Congress. She's another person. I thought that she did an extremely good job putting the concerns of workers in perspective. Apart from her, it was the same positions that you've grown accustomed to hearing year after year being enunciated on the platform. There's the positions of the trade unions that are anti-government, and there are the positions of the trade unions that are pro-government. There are the positions of the opposition representatives, and there's the position of the government representatives. And that is why it is that I was excited by the fact that this one person, this one young woman, made presentations that really critically address the concerns that workers have. And I will hope that in future May Day marches, that there will be more of that kind of presentations that will will put in perspective the concerns that workers have about their future, the present, and their future.
Well, we have to, part of what you are saying in relation to the same thing has to do with the fact that it's the same people.
Same people.
Right? And that we have not seen a lot of changes in terms of the leadership as we go back to that. All right? So the things that they've been saying all year, and for all the years, they say nothing different on occasions like those. They have no new message. And that is a problem that we really do have. And that may be because that young lady is now into the thing, fresh out of the woods. She is coming with a different perspective, right? And that is why there is always a need for change, because 30 years you become sterile, all right? Why, what new can you bring to the table? Okay, even if you are there for that long, but you are surrounding yourself with people who are there for the equal amount of time as you, you're not bringing fresh ideas, you're not bringing any new talent or anything, then what it becomes now is a cabal that is basically impotent and will bring nothing new to the table. And so they just keep regurgitating every year the same thing all the time. And that doesn't do anything for the workers at all. It doesn't do anything to boost their confidence. It doesn't do anything to enhance their lot in terms of where they're going to go and what benefits they're going to gain. And we're going to see progressively people are going to say, what are we going there for, man? For hear the same thing again. And that is why the numbers are going to keep dwindling, because people are not going to be wanting to hear one thing all the time. All right? But we just got to hope that next year something different happens and that new ideas can be brought forth, and that people who have not been in this process and would have been speaking all those years, give the platform over to fresh people who can come with something new. All right? But time has caught up with us, and I must again thank you, gentlemen, for being here so that we can share thoughts on the various issues that we have been able to discuss this evening. And I want to remind you that in relation to any activity to commemorate the life of Sister Tchaiko, we're going to make it public, and we would hope that you will come and share in that event when it is so announced. Do have a good night. See you next week, same time, same channel, for another program of Walter Rodney Groundings.